But one interesting thing about the Madeira vine is that on the other, I went to Samakusa for like Chinese New Year, and they didn't know. My contact there knows all about the plants in his Samakusa area, but he said they didn't have it. So to me, that may indicate that it's an invasive species in Taiwan as well. There's a mix of today there's a mixing of old and new. Like these eggplants represent the Japanese influence, because with the Japanese rule came many new types of plants and vegetables and stuff. And these are two types of chilies. Well, the small one is what they say is the native species, and the larger, hotter one is the foreign species. And there's some Danada, spikenard, there's some Perilla here. This is called Hong Chai, Guyana bicolor, and Yahoo. Okay, and there was a chef an Aboriginal chef who agreed to cook up a bunch of vegetables that I picked, and that's a picture from that. Oh, by the way, this up here, this is a traditional raw pork dish, which used to give people botulism. if you don't eat it carefully, I mean, like there's a month's period of time when you can eat it, before there were refrigerators. So, and they used to make it from millet. And so now they still eat it. It's one of their favorite things, and it's that eating things like that is probably contributing to the kidney problems and stuff. Anyway, so there's some vegetables that seem to be in kind of a gray area. Like one of the first ones I noticed about that was chayote. Okay, chayote originates from the Americas, and in this population, actually you can get it around Taiwan. In Chinese they call it long su tai, dragon's beard vegetable, and you probably have eaten the long strand, like the ends of it, and it's a very delicate vegetable. You can also eat this fruit here. But they thought that it was just something like the ancestors gave them, but it apparently kind of came from maybe what's called the Columbia Exchange, but I'm getting ahead of myself. But anyway, so that was one, and so like tomatoes too, and squash. This is like a calabash type of squash, and guavas. They think that, I was told by people in Chinchun that guavas, there was a wild native guava, and that guavas are from Taiwan. But then I spoke to Professor Hu Ming at Taida in TU, and he said no, those were brought to Taiwan earlier than their memory. So that was a difficulty in my research of, people think that something is native. They think it's a wild species, but it's actually just been there maybe 500 years or something, 400 or 500 years. Like tomatoes came from the Americas through Spain, and then to Asia through, some people say through China, but more likely through the Philippines, because the Philippines at the time was a big trade center. Oh yeah, and corn. This is the outside species. The white one is the local one. But where did that actually originate? Probably in the Americas. That might be something this might be a strain of corn that's from like the Spanish the Spanish empire through Asia. And pumpkins too, and squash. There's many kinds of pumpkins and squash, and those are supposed to be from the Americas. It seemed to me this seems to be kind of like a really interesting field of research, kind of like plant anthropology, the study of how plants move from population, carried by people. And my research has made me think about where do these species come from? Most recently, probably from just the sheer fact of globalization and the access to central markets that everybody now has. You can take a bus to the Judong Central Market, but there's also like within that community there are many stall vendors or farmers or people who moved there or lived there for 100 years or more, many times more, longer than that. So like Hakka, there were certain things like Shinchai. Shinchai is a type of kind of like collard breed. The Hakka apparently brought that into the area. Hakka is a majority in Judong down the mountain. And then it turns into Saisha, and then it turns into outside our majority. And they're known, Hakka are known as very gifted farmers. And it's said that they brought some types of fruit to the area, some grapefruit and oranges, some types of oranges. Also, sometimes Minnan Ren were discussed as the origins of how fruit or vegetables got to the area. But I find probably one of the biggest, most fruitful eras for introduction of new species to this area was under the Japanese rule. And I found out from Professor who does research in this area, that when Taipei was called the Imperial University, Royal Imperial University, they wanted to turn Taiwan into a hot house for all these fruits and vegetables, especially fruits that they encountered in their military campaigns throughout Southeast Asia. So that's why we have so many fruits from Malaysia. We have and Indonesia and the Philippines. That's where like the dragon fruit in the past 10 years or so is Thailand too. Because the Japanese brought back all these crops to explore, to see whether they would be good for lucrative production, lucrative agricultural production. So the Japanese rule, that seems to be the largest wave of new plant species. But the Dutch and the Spanish have had a role too, because when people come to the island and they think they're going to live here, or they bring with them, say like certain like seeds and plants that they can eat as closely to what they ate at home in the Netherlands, for example. And then before that, in the Columbian Exchange, after Christopher Columbus sailed to the New World and brought back with in Spain helped propagate all these different fruits and vegetables throughout the world. And then before that, if I can figure out like what are the native species? It's so you have to kind of peel the layers of an onion to get to figure out like what are the original native species. But the point is that they have such an amazing diversity presently that, like EQ, one of my informants said that we mountain people will never starve. You know, there's always it's such a fertile place in Taiwan, and now there's so many possibilities. Whatever you want to grow, you can grow it there. That I was told several times. And so nutrition in this population seems to me to be extraordinarily good, and especially compared to other indigenous populations in the research, say in Australia or Canada or America, where there's a problem with obesity, there's a problem with undernutrition, and among many other issues, but that's not a problem here in Taiwan. So they actually have quite a, there are other potential areas for development that I'm going to look into. So Mahoi Su means thank you in my language. Having dinner with my family.
Thank you. Mahoi Su. So I'll start with the questions because I wrote down a few here. The first one was, did your diet change? I mean, did you notice yourself finding that, like, oh, I really like this, and that became part of your diet, something you couldn't live without, or?
Yeah, it did change because I wanted to try new things. So I would buy plants and vegetables that I saw in the market or in Judong or along the way, along the route, and I would bring them to my family and say, hey, can you cook this up for dinner, or perhaps let's have some of this fruit, how do you eat it, or what is it? And yeah, sometimes, so I got to try many different things. I like xiaomijiu, and so I drink that a lot whenever I get a chance. It's pretty good.
There are a lot of different varieties of xiaomijiu, did you notice? Are they all kind of the same?
Well, one interesting thing about xiaomijiu is that it's actually not millet wine anymore. They use I want to say mui. It means sticky rice. Romi? Yeah, it means sticky rice to make millet wine. And I was told by someone who makes millet wine that that it's very hard to grow millet, and that the birds eat most of the harvest, so they just use this like sticky rice now. So it's, although once in a while you can find it like the real stuff, but so yeah, my diet did change a lot in the past 2 years. Yeah, because I was studying. I put together this compendium of all the plants that I saw in this area, and in the meantime, I got to learn about their nutritional value, and so yeah, now I know I eat as many like really green leafy vegetables as I can, and know a lot about like rice is a very empty starch. It doesn't even have taste like anything. It's very fattening, so I cut it out of my diet. So yeah, it has changed my personal nutrition a lot. I learned so much. This is the compendium. Let's see. Tuna, actually, Lynn turned me on to tuna. Tuna trees, Tuna sinensis, it's a picture over here. But the leaves are eaten, and that's something that I have to have like very often. Right? about this on the phone. We had to both get off the phone so we could go get some.
It's not the fish, it's something else?
No, it's a tree. It's a tree here. I'll show you a picture. And it's got very highly antioxidative qualities. Where's my tuna?
Where can you get it?
You can get it in a supermarket. Where's my tuna tree picture? Sorry. Anyway, tuna sinensis. Lissa, that was tuna sinensis. Anyway, yeah, you can get a supermarket. I like to get like the fresh. Try to get the artisan-made kind. But what's the name of that supermarket? It's blue. It's got a big blue sign.
Trendian?
I don't know.
It's Trendian.
They have tuna sauce, and they mix it with soy, like oil, soybean oil.
And salt?
But it's okay. But I get the artisan kind in Ushinjia.
I get it at the organic.
Shanshu. You can ask around. Sometimes like a little shop might have it. Shanshu.
They told me to mix it with the rice and sauce with the rice noodles.
It's freaking delicious,
Yeah.
and it's really super good for you. So yeah, that's just one example. But
We have other questions?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
You mentioned, or you showed us a picture of the eggshells on the plants. Why are there eggshells on the plants?
because it's really good for the soil, it adds a lot of nutrients to the soil.
Oh, okay.
Calcium and...
Yeah.
I was wondering if the plants needed calcium, because I know that birds do.
I think it's about the pH value or not. It's, what is it in English? Charcoal? Is it charcoal? I don't know. Yeah. For the pH value of the soil.
Oh, really?
So,
Okay.
otherwise it's getting too sour.
Oh, really?
Because of the rain.
Too acidic.
Oh, I see.
Too acidic, yeah.
So the calcium works as a base. Other questions? I have lots of questions.
Another one I forgot.
How long at one time would you spend there?
Usually weekends,
Mm-hmm.
but sometimes I would have a little more time, and so I'd spend maybe a week there when I didn't have classes. For Chinese New Year.
And how long does it take to get there?
It's not called a remote mountainous village for nothing. It's from Taipei. Let's see. You have to go. I go to Banqiao Station, and it's like an hour and a half to Zhuge on a bus, and then it's another hour or so to get to Chichen.
It's not that bad.
No, it's like, but it's waiting, and it's like 4 hours.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's considerable.
Yeah.
But I was thinking like 8 hours by
No.
slow moving truck
it's
down.
in Shinju.
Okay.
Shinju Mountain.
I have a question.
Shoot.
Well, the famous saying says you are what you eat, right? So I wonder how much studying the food of the Aboriginal helped you learn about their culture and their life in general.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, because the sheer fact of eating with somebody, I mean, it's a bonding experience, right? It's a bonding experience. So if you eat with the whole family, they can become your family, and you can chat and they'll answer questions. Yeah, and tell you. There are many people very generous with their time. Sometimes it took hours to get through this whole bunch of, there's like 140 slides. It's like at least 130 species of fruits and vegetables to talk about. And I'm not actually I'm not finished yet, but this is a good opportunity for me to kind of like recheck and summarize and figure out what still needs to be done, how to tackle that.
Other questions?
Yeah, I remember what it was. Once when I went to a Camp Meats restaurant here, I remember trying to figure out where the washrooms were and watching this woman in an elegant dress, and she went into the bathroom, and I thought, there's the bathroom. And then she threw up because she was bulimic. And then when later I came out, then she was like, smile and come out. And then I remembered in psychology we learned that bulimia was affecting every culture. Has it reached the ATL population, or are they free from bulimia or anorexia? Because that's a big problem with most westernized nations.
I didn't see that as a particular problem.
So they don't have this.
I don't. Well, any place that has TV, apparently TV is a
Yes.
huge factor.
TV and
Yes.
magazines.
Yes, all the media, Hollywood movies.
They have TV, but it's not so much social pressure like that. Although it's a very kind of mobile community. Some people they don't. Sometimes people that were in my family, I would ask them, hey, do you know that person? And I would tell them their Aboriginal name, and they wouldn't know who I was talking about. But once if I showed them a picture of them, they said, oh yeah, I know that person. But that person only comes up for maybe holidays or something, from Miaoli or some other part of Taiwan. And then there's also like the military, a couple of young men were in the Aboriginal men in the military, so it's very kind of transitory population, and people have many names, and actually identifying people and their relationships to each other was almost impossible for me. It was so confusing.
Okay, other questions? What? Yeah, I got quite a few. Do they talk about like how old these gardens are? Are some of these gardens like, oh, this is so historical that it has stories about it, or does the weather changes so much, the floods, like they have to keep changing locations of gardens every 10 years? Or do they talk about the historical age of these gardens?
Not so much, other than the fact that, say, one of those gardens had been a community garden and was connected to the church, which is a kind of central role there. So, or say like the pomelo tree that Abin's uncle had planted 40 years before, and let's see, some people up there do blame the fact that there's a lot more vegetable growing and kind of for semi-small farm kind of experiences there. So, and the picture of Qingchuan that I showed early on, yes, it has been struck by disaster about 8 years ago. About 8 years ago, there was a huge typhoon and a flood, and this whole part of the mountain collapsed, slid down, was a mudslide, and a bunch of people were killed, and there were a lot of vegetable gardens on that mountain. So some people say, yeah, that vegetable farming is creating a problem. Other people say it's the bamboo forest that they grow a lot of bamboo forests, and they cut the whole thing down on a very steep slope. It's just asking for mudslides. I actually went through the whole area, and I made like a dozen photographs of places that seem to have been places where bamboo forests had been planted on a steep slope and cut down and had led to a mudslide or a landslide. So it's, yeah, there's a problem with, Taiwan has a very rocky volcanic soil anyway, which is it's very fertile, but it's also very unsteady, and there's also just going to be naturally a lot of erosion.
So they might not be able to keep a garden for more than 70 years or 80 years.
Well, the traditional way of gardening was kind of slash and burn. It would be to kind of slash and burn an area over here, and then grow some stuff, and then if you do that, then it's you can only use that site for a little while, and then they'd be able to keep the soil so that they would move to another spot.
That kind of thing will also bring animals in too. They probably did it like they would slash and burn an area, grow vegetables, maybe let some animals come in, some birds, maybe some deer. They might be able to do some hunting and then move to another area, let that area replenish, and slash and burn another area.
Yeah, there's La Ling who told me that a long time ago, he considers himself an expert in hunter culture, and he said that a long time ago that maybe only 2 or 3 families could constitute a village, and that those people would move every couple of years, so as not to tire the mountain, he called it. So, I have heard of that, and there was a study that was done, Professor Scott Simon told me about it. It tried to track down the hunting grounds, the hunting territory of the indigenous people, and it turned out to be several times greater than the entire territory of Taiwan is. 4 times the space. If you took into account all of their past hunting grounds.
Other questions? So you were talking about how they grew nasturtiums and other plants around the edges of the gardens. I've noticed a similar practice, but not exactly the same, just similar practice in Miaoli around the strawberries. Is this very common, like with all of the gardens that they have up there? Is that like just common knowledge you have to... because that's sort of a permaculture idea, like you don't want to put pesticides on the plants, so you have to figure out a different way to deal with the pests.
Yeah, use certain plants to scare away the insects. Like insects don't like certain aromatic plants like lavender, for example. But it seems to be a combination between their traditional knowledge, but also they seem to just like enjoy flowers or something. So it's a combination of just like liking flowers or thinking something is attractive, and also they're aware of the fact that certain plants are good to have.